All right. Welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means, the other one's along for the ride. Noah, how are you?
I'm good, man. We're coming off a rough Rockies series in Cincinnati, but
So
we
yeah, let
played.
me let me ask you again. Are you good?
I'm a bit deflated, but yes, I'm
Yeah,
great. We're living life. How are you?
yeah. I'm doing good. I'm grinding, and we'll talk about that deflated feeling here in a minute. But to get us started, how far are we from the draft?
Just a couple days away. Sunday night.
Yeah, and
Monday.
that's an exciting time. We have the third pick, right?
Yes, I'm excited.
The draft, obviously, in Major League Baseball is a lot different from other professional sports, as you have no idea what you're getting, no matter how good they've been or how hyped they are. Could be years before you see them, so on and so forth. We do have some great articles and things coming out about what the Rockies should do with the third pick, mock drafts, all of that. Of course, we'll have some analysis once that pick and many others are made, which is fantastic. So stay tuned for that. Um, but yeah, as you mentioned, the past couple weeks, not only for us as fans, but it seems the team is a little deflated even after a win. So I say that because we dropped 2 of 3 in Cincinnati, correct?
3 of 4.
3 of 4. Thank
Mhm.
you, and that's why I asked. And that last win, we scraped it out. It looked like the bullpen was about to blow it, and they actually escaped with the W, which was great. But had you noticed, and we sent some text messages around the group, had you noticed the players, they seemed like they were not exhausted, but literally deflated. Like they were just like it wasn't even a relief or anything. It was just like I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah,
How
well,
would you describe it?
I mean, you go into the ninth, and this is in Wednesday's ball game with a 6-2 lead. And Vodnik gave up a homer and to begin his third inning of work. He really, I don't know if he should have been out there still, but Buddy took him out. Went to Jalen Beeks on his birthday, and Beeks he was able to get the save. We won 6-5, but it was yeah. As soon as the cameras cut to Beeks and the catcher like meeting after they secured the last out, I mean, the catcher was like patting Beeks on the shoulder, like, yo, it's good. But I mean, they had won and they just, yeah, it didn't look like they had won on his birthday, too.
Yeah, it's you can tell that the players are feeling it, and what I think is happening is that obviously it's a grind of a long season on a team that unfortunately isn't going to be competitive all that often, and it's a lot of guys that are out there just playing for a job. And baseball is a ton of failure, and it seems like these guys are out there, and even though they're performing okay here and there, the consistency obviously is not there. And it just seems like you go out there and like you expect not to really do a good job, and you do a bad job and you escape like that. It's like, well, I don't feel like I did the be- I don't feel like I did the best job to my ability, right? So it's like, yeah, they got out with a W, but they still were unsatisfied, at least in Beek's case, with how he performed. And it's not just him. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some positives. All stars were announced. What kind of commentary can you give on that front?
Well, I was super happy to see McMahon get the nod for the Rockies. I think it's so deserving. He's been a Gold Glove finalist 3 years in a row, hasn't won it. He was he's been close to the All Star game in years past, and for him to finally push over the over that bump and get recognition, I think is so huge. And he's in a little bit of a power drought right now, so hopefully that that wraps up. But yeah, I love seeing McMahon get in, and I think it's the right choice. I know Tovar was in the conversation until he went over 30. And Doyle, I mean, we'll talk about Doyle in a second, but what do you think of McMahon getting into the All-Star game? And who else do you like that's in or who shouldn't be in?
Yeah, so McMahon and some accolades have been kind of a long time coming because that year after Nolan left and went to the Cardinals, there's a really strong argument that McMahon should have won a Gold Glove over Nolan that year. Nolan's fantastic, of course. But if you want to do a deep dive into the actual defensive metrics and statistics, McMahon arguably should have won a Gold Glove over him that year. Offensively, obviously, is not the player Nolan is, at least in that year. But McMahon has put together some amazing things on his resume. Walk-off home runs, Gold Glove caliber defense, obviously. And this year he's been our most consistent hitter, both from power and mostly from average. So it's just like, yes, it's finally just really good to see him get some acknowledgement for what he's been doing because he absolutely deserves it. Going to Doyle, dude has been on fire, and it's unfortunate that it's coming at this part in the year because it was 1 month ago. Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate that. Mike chiming in. All right. Love that. Doyle, had it been a month ago, like there's a strong case that he should be an all-star because he obviously won the Gold Glove last year, and now he's just on a complete tear. And I was listening to the in-game commentary the other day, and they said that, maybe if somebody were to withdraw or get hurt, Doyle could be in the conversation from a manager's or commissioner's office perspective. What do you think about that, Doyle, and specifically?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, if you look at the numbers, and shout out Patrick Lyons for discovering and unearthing a lot of this, after his recent hot stretch, and he deservedly won National League Player of the Week last week. After his hot stretch, he now leads all National League outfielders in homers, doubles, on OPS, and stolen bases. So, and that was
center fielders, correct?
Yes, center fielders. Sorry. And that was 2 days ago. So I'm sure things could have changed, but the dude's numbers don't lie. He deserves to be an all-star because those are four of the biggest categories. I mean, OPS is starting to overtake average and, some of the stats that we used to refer to for a long time. Doyle should be an all-star. He really should. And it'll be interesting to see what happens if Tatis doesn't play as the outfielder. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't think Tatis will play. So,
yeah, I read one of those funny cherry-picked statistics that, and I'm going to butcher it because I didn't bother to save it because I don't like these cherry-picked stats, but it was something like over the last 11 games, Doyle is only one of 4 players ever to have 11 extra base hits, 4 home runs, 4 walks, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like him, Babe Ruth, and 3 other Hall of Fame guys. And that's all good and fun, but I don't put too much weight into that. But I don't want to discount in any way how hot and amazing it's been to watch him play and how hot he's been at the plate. And so it's really exciting. And again, in a season like this where you're not winning a lot of games, you have to hyper focus in on those individual achievements and individual plays and just applaud those every chance you get. So it's really exciting to see that. I do have some statistics and things I want to get into after this, but before we move on to that, do you have any other thoughts about our All-Star game selections, things you want to talk about?
I was going to mention that as hot as Brenton Doyle's been, the opposite of the spectrum was Tovar, who went on an 30 at-bat hitless streak, which was the second longest in Colorado Rockies franchise history for non-pitchers. So that's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, I know he swings a lot, but he also has really good bat-to-ball skills, and he broke it, so it's history now. But that was interesting.
Yeah, it was. It's unfortunate, but he'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Everybody goes through slumps, things like that. So it is what it is. But we'll just move on from that. So
Yeah, I just think it showed both ends of the spectrum for like our players are both, those two are in their second year. They're both really young, like the hottest of hot and the coldest of cold, but they
yeah,
figured.
I mean that speaks to some growth points that even though Tovar's been really great, there are still things for these players to be growing in. And for Tovar, it's K rate. It's
Plate
being a little more patient, and I understand that's a big part of his game of being aggressive. But at some point, that's going to be exploited negatively against him. So he'll have to adjust, and baseball is a game of adjustments.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So
yeah, he'll be all right. But yeah, I'm excited to hear the numbers and the breakdown that you've come up with ahead of this episode.
well, I definitely did not come up with them, but I did stumble upon them. And so basically, what I have here is that it's a breakdown of WAR by position. So it's not by any single player, but just a ranking of WAR by position. So there might be more than one player. So where the Rockies stack up overall as a team, so they're team players. The Rockies are 28th out of 30. Not good. Their starting pitching is 24th out of 30. Surprisingly, the bullpen is not dead last, and I hate to say that, but that's true. They are not the worst bullpen. They are the second to worst bullpen behind the Blue Jays.
Jeez.
Our best ranked position is do you want to guess?
Our best position?
Yes, best position by WAR.
I feel like our catchers have been doing well.
Absolutely, there's no question about that. Jacob Stallings and Diaz have carried us into the third position. Only the Kansas City Royals and LA Angels are above us there.
Wow.
First baseman, we're 27th out of 30. Second baseman, we're 24. Third baseman, this is a positive note. We're 7. Thank you, Mr. McMahon. Shortstop, we're 12th. I imagine that's actually dipped a little bit, but still at least probably top 20 due to Tovar's struggles recently. Left field, we're 29 out of 30.
Wow.
Center field, we're 16. I imagine that's jumped up some spots because of Doyle's hot streak, which is great. Right field, we're 27. DH, we're 26. And pitch hitting, which is an important part of the game, but not something I really care about all that much. But we're 22. So what's your initial reactions to hearing that?
I mean, I knew that Jacob Stallings and Diaz had been doing super well this year. I did not know they were the third best catching group by WAR in all of baseball. And by my count, the Rockies had 3 groups above 15, and that's what I'm going to look at as average because that's the median, the middle.
Correct. 4 groups really. So catcher, third base, shortstop, and center field. So really talking about Diaz and Stallings, platoon there, McMahon, Tovar, and Doyle. So those are obviously the super great spots of the team at the moment. Heading into the trade deadline, it reinforces my belief that we need to move a catcher.
Yeah.
To try and get some prospects in return because, again, catcher is, such a offensive, desperate position by other teams. So I think that's an area that the front office should take advantage of. The other pieces, I think we can keep around and don't necessarily need to move all that much. Everything else just really doesn't have a whole lot of value. So,
yeah, I'm surprised the one that stuck out, I know our corner outfielders have not been productive, but second base, 27th, I think you said, out of 30. That just surprised me because I thought B-Rod had been doing better than that, but I know he was hurt
24.
for
Yeah, 24.
Okay.
Yeah, and that speaks a lot about injuries that we've been dealing with. Um, Jones obviously hasn't been, when he has been playing, hasn't been playing up to what he did last year, but he's been hurt a lot, and he's doing a little bit better. As you mentioned, Rogers was hurt. Rogers isn't a guy that's going to hit a ton for power, but his average is coming around, which as a traditionalist, I respect a lot.
Yeah.
Like I love people that can hit for average with what's going on in today's game. So, but anyway, he's his average is coming around, and then the other outfield spot in DH with Blackman and the other pieces, it's just been a lot of people in and out. And you saw Hilliard yesterday hit 2 home runs, which is really cool.
That? How about that?
Yeah, that's like I felt so good for him. Like
Yeah.
that was amazing. And now he's at a place where his average is above 270. He's hit for power. He's always been a good base runner, good defensive player. So it's just like, okay, like all right, let's do this for a couple weeks because you got some momentum. So I hope he can ride that out, and we can see where it goes. But it'll be interesting to see where we end up at the end of the year with these numbers. Starting pitching is interesting because Freeland is another guy that was hurt for a long time, and he's been amazing. So can we just talk about what he's been like and what he's been doing since he came back from the IL?
Yeah. I mean, since he's come back, he's pitched 26.1 innings in his 4 games, maybe 5. But and he's only allowed 5 earned runs, so that's a 1.70 ERA. And yesterday he had 9 strikeouts, which is the most I've seen from him in a game in a long time. Like even in his recent starts, he had been getting outs and limiting the damage, but striking people out has never really been his strong suit. But 9 and 6 1/3 last night, or 6 2/3, they will take that. The Rockies will take that any day of the week, and that's why I'm intrigued because Gomber, since May, has just been you have to guess if you're going to get a great start or a bad start. And Cal Quantrill, he's been solid. He's had his hiccups, but I still think he's easily the front of the rotation guy. Tomorrow in New York, I'm excited Tanner Gordon goes again after he had a better start than the numbers indicated in his debut. I think he gave up 5, but 3 of them came on a home run after 2 blue hits. And he threw like 79% strikes, which was the highest mark the Rockies have had in a game all year. You know Bud's going to keep him in the rotation if he keeps doing that.
Yeah, Cal has been the most consistent. Obviously, Freeland's the hottest one at the moment. And as you mentioned, Gomber is just a toss-up, and it was really strange because he was in a pitcher's duel the other day at Coors Field, and I wouldn't have guessed that. Like, if he's going at Coors, like I'm going to kind of guess that that's probably going to be a bad outing for him, but he proved me wrong, my skepticism wrong, and it was really good to see him come out in Coors and pitch really well. Curveball looked great. Going back to Freeland really quick, you mentioned the 9 strikeouts. I went back and watched every single one of those. 8 out of the 9 came on the same pitch.
Oh, wow.
It was an 85-mile-an-hour slider for 8 out of those 9s. So he's got that working for sure. So let's just hope he obviously keeps that up. We wish nothing but the best for Freeland, especially since he's one of the more passionate players on the team, and he's a Denver homegrown product. So, you know, him and Jake Cave, fan favorites through and through at the moment. So,
yeah. Well, and I have another note on Gomber before we get away from it. Talking about his home and away, we're confused because you'd think you'd pitch better on the road, on the road. But the numbers so far this year at home, he started 8 games and he has a 3.54 ERA. On the road, started 9 games and he has a 5.44 ERA. So that's 2 whole runs difference, basically 1.9 of an ERA. And for a guy that relies on a big sweeping, or really a bender 12-6 curveball, that doesn't break as much in Denver, but he Blake Street Gomber, he's got a feel for it.
Yeah, and that's so crazy because it goes against everything that analysis and things that we've read about Coors Field and what it takes to be successful at Coors Field. So it just proves that the Coors Field thing might be unsolvable, and you just have to let guys go out and play, and if they're successful, then you just stay with them, and if they're not, then you got to get rid of them. And unfortunately, that brings us to Dakota Hudson, who I believe had a above 8 ERA at home, pitched really well away, but he just got DFA'd and cleared waivers from my understanding.
Yeah, and we were all kind of surprised to see him elect to not choose free agency, but he stuck around and he's going to be going to AAA and trying to figure out what to do. In Albuquerque, it's basically the same altitude as Denver. But yeah, at home, Dakota was 0-6 with an 8.26 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
And on the road, very solid. 8 games and 3.72 ERA. That's why a lot of us in the group chat, we were a bit upset because a guy's pitching that well on the road. He can't handle the altitude, but we saw Bud Black push Ryan Feltner back, so he didn't have to pitch at Coors because Feltner's been great on the road. So the starting rotation has honestly been really, really solid on the road. Other than, it's weird, Gomber. Like you said, it's really unsolvable.
It is, and especially when you're in a losing season, I think people should try to be more creative, like we saw back in the Tracy era. I believe we went to a 4-man rotation or a 6-man rotation. I think we went to a 6-man rotation to try and solve some of that. And it's just like, well, if you're willing to experiment a little bit, why don't you have some pitchers that you primarily, and I know it would be impossible to do this all the time, but you primarily use them on the road, or you primarily use, so-and-so at home, depending on the schedule. I just don't understand why that's out of the realm of possibility. I don't think that's a super radical thought. But we have unique challenges playing at altitude. So why not just actually embrace that we have those challenges and try to experiment around that specifically, instead of being scared of going outside of traditional baseball norms, especially when you're in a losing season. But I digress. Maybe that's silly. I don't know.
I'm in the same boat as you, and Nick in our group chat the other day was sharing the same sentiment as me. I think they need to try that with the hitters too. And I know the roster isn't big enough for that to happen. So I would put, you'd still have to have 5 guys play every day at home and road. I mean, without looking at the home and road splits, I could identify McMahon, Tovar, Brenton Doyle. He's not coming off the field. Those 3, you will, and the catcher spot doesn't matter with how they're performing. I mean, that's 4 already that you can lock in. And I would say Nolan Jones confidently is our 5th if he was what he was last year, because guys like Doyle, you can throw his offense out right now. And that's what we did last year because his offense was pretty poor. Doyle, with the way he played defense last year, he was already going to play every single night. And Nolan Jones still has a missile of an arm. We saw him throw out a couple base runners in Denver.
Yeah, you have a player like Charlie who's an established Rockies legend at this point. He's on the record of talking about how Coors Field and the hangover effect is real. So why wouldn't you lean into that and try to be a little bit more creative? But I don't know. I think we just have too many baseball traditionalists around in the manager's office and the front office, which it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not winning, you might as well
Try something.
Yeah, try something. The worst thing that can come up is that it's a little bit embarrassing and the rest of the league kind of laughs at you. But, I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
They're kind of been laughing at us for a while. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and we'll see how the future develops. But I guess last little bit on the Rockies, and then we'll talk home run derby predictions. This they've only got a series left until the All-Star break, so they're in New York for 3. How do you think they'll fare against the Mets that are completely different Mets than they were a month ago?
Well, not good. If we win one, I'll be happy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll probably be the last game of the series.
yeah. Hey, if you're gonna win one, they always say make it the last one.
Yeah, I mean, like at least at this point, like we're fighting to at least not have teams completely sweep us. So, and especially on the road, you never know what you're going to get. By never know, I mean you just never know when a win's going to come.
Yeah,
Unfortunately. So, I don't expect them to do too well, but again, we'll stay positive and look out for those individual performances and pick out the highlights where we can.
yeah. Well, and I'll just give you a one question quiz because I had to check this number. The Rockies have played 47 road games. How many do you think they've won?
11.
13. So I don't. They're 13 and 34 on the road, which it doesn't take a mathematician to say that that's not very good.
No. And even years that Rockies have played above 500 baseball, which obviously hasn't been too many, they've just dominated at home. And obviously we haven't seen that. But I mean, to be fair, most teams play about, even the top teams in the league play around 500 baseball on the road, maybe a little bit better if they're really dominant. But you got to do better than that. There's just no other way to say it. You have to do better than that.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, we'll just leave that at that and hope for the Rockies to play well in Queens this weekend. But let's just talk home run derby real quick, finish us out, put us right around our half an hour mark. Were you able to see the field, and do you have a clear and obvious favorite? Because honestly, this field I think is wide open.
Yeah. I'm looking at it now, and the polar bear, Pete Alonso, him being in there, obviously in years past and the history of it, he's performed really well, and he takes this event very seriously, which I respect. I also don't like him.
Yeah.
I kind of think he's a bit of a goober, but that's my own personal feeling. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, and he's passionate about baseball, so I probably shouldn't say that. But I expect him to do well, but I won't be rooting for him. That's where I'm going with that.
That's fair.
So I expect him to make it in the later rounds, but I won't be cheering him on actively. I love to see newcomers come on and kind of take hold of it. I'm really excited about Alec Boehm. He's a Wichita State guy. I was in Kansas for like 5 years, so pretty close to me in that regard. So I'll be rooting for him. And as you know, Alec famously, I think he had 4 or 5 errors in a game, and he got booed by the Phillies fans, and that was like a whole thing in baseball world. So see him come back and like put on really good performances and be a really good hitter now, like that's really exciting for me. All right, Aaron, you got it, bud. So I'm excited to see him perform. Garcia, I can't remember what game I was watching, but one of the announcers said that Garcia has the best body in baseball.
Wow.
which is quite a thing for another grown man to say about another grown man. And I appreciate that honesty. And he's not necessarily wrong. So Garcia is absolutely yoked. So he's going to hit probably the furthest home runs, but I expect him to kind of probably tire out the fastest.
He'd be the hometown hero.
Definitely. So I expect him to hit some really loud ones, but not to go too far. Gunnar Henderson is besides Bobby Witt Jr., he's like the young, exciting, prospect coming up. So I expect a lot of kids in the crowd are going to be cheering him on, and they're going to be their favorite player for a while. So want to see Gunnar do well. Bobby Witt, want to see him do well. Hernandez, he's a Dodger, so hopefully he goes out first round.
Yeah, I agree.
Marcel, hate to say it, but not really big on him as a person. So
I wonder why.
yeah, not a huge fan of him on a moral perspective. So hopefully he kind of bows out and doesn't really do much. He's having a great season, good for him, but also I'll say it off air. But and then Jose Ramirez, he's a great player, so I think he's going to go deep. Deep in the bracket, I mean, not only literally, but also figuratively. So I guess I like Alonso and Ramirez, probably, depending on how it works out. They're going to be like the two guys that are going to go deepest. So, but anyway, I digress. That's a lot of thoughts there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I think watching Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson will be so exciting and great for the game. I also, anytime the home run derby or the All Star weekend is in a location, I do find myself rooting for the hometown guy to win. So, Adolis, I'll be rooting for him.
Yeah,
But
definitely wouldn't mind that.
I really don't care for Alonso to win. I don't care for Bohm to win. Definitely don't care for Teoscar Hernandez to win or Ozuna. But one guy that really sticks out to me is Jose Ramirez. And this is going to be his second time participating in the event. He didn't win it his first time, but he said on his social media, like, let's run it back or something along those lines. And I think he is so criminally underrated across baseball by its fans. He's been putting up Nolan Arenado numbers for years longer than Arenado put up his numbers. And we should mention that McMahon's an all-star this year and Nolan isn't for the first time in forever. But yeah, I think the guy I'm rooting hardest to win is Jose Ramirez. And I wouldn't mind if either the Young Bucks or the hometown hero Garcia wins it.
Is Jose going to hit from the right or left side? And if he struggles, is he going to switch it up at some point?
That's what I was thinking. Like, if you get tired, just flip sides.
Yeah, that's such a interesting skill set and problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm rooting for him though. He needs respect. I saw him at Coors Field. He had 2 home runs against the Rockies, I believe, in a series, and he just torments everyone. It's not just the Rockies; it's everyone. Really
yeah, no, he's an amazing player, and it was so crazy to see that he had such a bad year in 2019. Hit 255. And this is a bad year for him, but hit 255 and 23 home runs.
Yeah.
Next year he hits 292, has only 17 home runs, and then now he's back consistently in the AL MVP conversation for the last 4 years. So it's just, baseball's funny. It's just it had to have gotten into his head, a lot, and at some point. And so it's just kind of funny when we talk about a person like Tovar, who's been really cold recently. Like, how's he going to react to that? Because the good players, like, they go through this, but they come back and find a way to get back to the elite level. Yeah, that's just a tangent, but yeah, I would love to see him win it. So anyway,
Yeah, I'm with you. And I know the Rockies are looking forward to the All-Star break and figuring something out for the second half. But that about does it for my thoughts. If you want to bring us home.
no, yeah, figure it out or just continue with more of the same. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the draft, and hopefully the front office can pull some moves to get some younger people in and lean into the rebuild that we've been doing for the last 20 years. But anyway.
And keep an eye out for Blake Street Banner's draft coverage because it's going to be excellent. I'm excited for.
It is very excellent. Tyler and the crew do a great job with that. It is by far in my opinion, our better coverage. So hope people tune into that. But anyway, with that, go Rocks.
Woo!